Good morning, everyone. My name is Ashley Wilds, a strategic communications student at Morgan State University, and it is my pleasure today to talk with Ms. Senta Johnson, president of the NAACP Youth Council, about her reaction to this historic presidential election. Ms. Johnson, thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you for having me.
No problem. So, of course, my big question is what is your reaction to the presidential election results so far?
So far, it's a really close race, and it's really interesting to follow in that sense because it's going to take the longest than any other year to find the results, and everybody is on the edge of their seats looking and waiting and everything, and it's going back and forth, and I think it's going to be the closest election and obviously the most historical one. And I'm feeling really hopeful about it, especially with the amount of young voters that got registered and actually went out there and stayed in line and everything. We had way more young voters that just turned 18 or had their first election this year come out than any other year prior. So I'm feeling really hopeful in that regard because of the trends that they usually are supporting. And, there's still going to be a few more days of waiting, but I think it's going to go out the way that we want it to.
All right. So, does the current results that we have right now, do the current results surprise you at all?
They don't. I knew it was going to be close. If you look at the map and you see what states are established as blue and red so far, you're seeing the red towards the middle of the country. You're seeing the blue on the coasts, and that does kind of make sense. In Pennsylvania, that's where I'm at, and it's a swing state. It could go either way. So when you go to Philly, it's very much blue, but when you go towards like Lancaster and like the rural countryside, that's going to lean towards red. So I did kind of expect that, and I think what is getting everybody on the edge of their seat is the fact that everyone's actually voting, and the fact that people are doing everything they can to get their vote out and be heard. So they're still counting ballots and everything, which is really, really great.
All right. What do you think were the big factors during the campaign season that got us to where we are today?
That's a good question. I think that a lot of it has to do with social justice issues and the fact that there are things that were politicized, like public health and racial injustice, that shouldn't be politicized. They are moral issues that got the country's attention, got the country to kind of wake up to these issues that have been issues for a very long time. And the fact that it is now politicized kind of makes us understand that we need to elect leaders that are going to consider the moral values of our country and not make it a campaign, but make it a goal to make sure that our country actually reaches them. If that makes sense.
I got you. All right. So, what do you think or hope will happen in the next few weeks?
I I'm praying that people are staying safe and staying sane because I do think with this election being so close and also being so uh, emotional, people are very passionate this year more than ever. So I hope that especially in the cities, no matter what the outcome is, people are making smart choices about it. And we do live in a democracy. Your vote isn't anybody else's business. Uh, but I understand, people can get really passionate, very, very, waking up about other people and what they think. So I'm hoping and praying that it's going to be a peaceful transition. But I wouldn't be surprised if people made their upsetness heard.
So, do you have any concerns about the next coming weeks?
I do, especially in the cities. I live close to Philadelphia, and I know that a lot of the small businesses are already boarding up. I know I drive by businesses and they're putting woods on their walls, and that's a really scary thing. The fact that people are preparing physically and mentally for the fact that things are gonna go down, and that's not how it should be. That's not how an election should be. You should have your opinions, have your views, go vote on it, and then let it happen. So it's really disappointing in that sense, but I like I said, I'm just just hoping that everyone can stay in their homes and process and meditate the results accordingly.
All right. So when do you think the official results of this election will come out? Keeping in mind that there are some missing ballots. What do you
Yeah,
think? When do you think the official results will come out?
not for a few days. I think by the end of the week we'll know. I know that in Bucks County there was a lot of debacle about people's mail-in ballots not being counted, and so they had to like redo that process. So I understand, because the majority of American citizens did vote by mail, so there's a lot of mishaps that could happen, and there already has been. So I would assume by the end of the week. I would give it maybe like 2 or 3 more days, but I wouldn't be surprised if it took the full week.
All right. And last question. Is there anything you would like to share with us about the 2020 presidential election?
You know, something that I really like to talk about and spread on the platforms that I can speak on is, you know, your vote is your vote. You know, as long as you made your voice heard, that's what matters. But there's also a lot of, you know, myself as a minority and someone who speaks on behalf of young people and minorities, a vote for the right is personal. You know, people are saying, you know, we can be friends if you support Biden. We can be friends if you support Trump. And sure, I'll be congenial. You know, I'm not a violent person or anything, but you know, kind of neglecting the right side and their disregard for racial justice, for public health, for just moral values in general. That is a personal thing for me, and for, I think I speak on behalf of a lot of people. So I do hope people voted with with their heart in mind, with their friends in mind, with their family in mind, and not with privilege in mind, not with trying to continue this wave of no empathy for others. You know, I hope people were empathetic this year, I guess is what I'm trying to say.
All right. Thank you so much for joining me, and thank you for sharing your thoughts about this election.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.